Today we're talking about operational management. So we're going to look at how you run a successful business and remain compliant whilst still meeting those competing requirements of suppliers and customers, because this is where basically everything that you've learned so far, we kind of pull together. Okay, so we're going to look at some systems and processes and procedures. We're going to look at health and safety. We're going to look at how to look at risks, and in the handout I'm going to send you some details on some different software and things you can use for managing risk, but we're not going to go into that in huge detail today. We're going to touch on equality and diversity and how this can benefit your company. We're looking at insurance, and we're looking at the most important bit, which is meeting your customers' expectations. And a lot of those in this sort of world relate to on-time delivery. So what do we mean by operations management? So we mean process design and improvement. So this is looking at making sure that your outputs are bigger than your inputs. Okay, because if you're spending 6 hours doing something to get 1 hour's worth of return or £10 worth of return, it's not very good. This includes analysing workflows, looking for bottlenecks, and just optimizing your processes to make sure that you remain productive, profitable, and efficient. We're also looking at capacity planning, which comes into these processes, again, with that optimization. Now, this might sound like this is all to do with product, but this also is exactly the same for services, because if you're offering a service to someone, you need to make sure that you have enough capacity to fulfill whatever you're doing. So a lot of this will talk about product, but wherever I say product, also read service. We're looking at inventory. Now, inventory is again the same for services. This is making sure that you've got enough in the bank or enough stock in the warehouse to fulfill your orders, but not too much, particularly with things that might have a shelf life as well. So making sure that you've got all of these things balanced and you're continually looking at it is really, really key. So we're also then looking at quality, because as we know, quality is one of the most risky parts of your business. If that quality slips, you lose customers and you lose reputation. We'll look a bit at the supply chain. We'll look at schedules and timing. We'll look at costs, that horrible, horrible part of this, having a business, but no one wants. Health and safety, you can see it's going to get really fun after the break, can't you? Costs, health and safety, risk management, insurance, Lean and Six Sigma principles. So we're going to touch on that in the handout more, but these methodologies focus on minimizing waste, reducing variability, and continually improving the processes so that you get the best levels of efficiency and effectiveness that you can in your business. And we're going to look at technology, and that includes some of the stuff that we have already covered in the web and digital marketing areas. So we're going to go through some of these in more detail, and some of these will be in the handout, okay? Because we have got only a couple of hours to go through this. So moving on, you look at that list and you go, where on earth do you start? Okay, where do you start? Where does anyone think that they start? Anyone apart from Joe with his dodgy microphone? Where do you start? Okay, you start at the top. So we look at your processes first. The reason we always start with your processes is because we need to make sure that you can actually deliver on the plan and the idea that you've got. So when we look at processes, they're broken into 3 different areas: systems, processes, and procedures. So your systems are, I want you to think about being the backbone of your business. So imagine your business is a really complex machine with loads and loads of moving parts. The systems are the invisible threads that weave all these parts together, that enable the seamless coordination and communication. They provide the necessary structure to align all your resources and processes and your people. And when you have robust systems, you create a framework that's reliable and ensures everybody is on the same page at the same time. So it reduces confusion and can give you a real collaborative environment. even if you are a single person business, you need these systems and that collaboration, because your single person business has suppliers and it has customers. So these systems help knit those external people together as well. Your processes provide you with a step-by-step sequence, which is like the guide on the recipe, if you like, and on how you pull it all together. So these are often referred to as the pathways that you use that help you achieve consistency and maintain quality. So when they're well designed, everybody, employees, suppliers, customers, associate businesses, partners, have a clear roadmap, and it minimizes guesswork and improvisation. And that might not seem important at the moment if you're the only person in your business, but if you can get them in place now and you constantly look at them, then what you've got is something so that as your business scales, they're already in place. Constant review of these every so often, I'm not going to say monthly or annually, helps as well, because you will find that these will move as you grow into your business and you bed in. So procedures are the really detailed instructions. They're the ones that people say illuminate the path. They make it make sense. They're the keys that unlock the full potential, and they give your team a comprehensive guide that helps you minimize risks. And those could be risks of errors, risks of poor quality, or accidents. And they are really, really important. And by having all of these, you end up reaping the benefits. So you have streamlined, efficient operations. You have a reduction in errors, so fewer hiccups, fewer delays in delivery. It helps you allow your business to run at peak efficiency continuously. And this means that you can focus on growth and innovation and building your business rather than just constantly firefighting issues that are coming up. Now, some of these systems, processes and procedures you can write in advance. Others you will write as you go along, because you won't realise you need a process or a procedure until someone asks for it. So in my business, I was on my own in my business for 7 years. Everything was in my head because that's the only place it needed to be. When I started employing staff, I suddenly realised that there were processes and procedures that I was taking for granted that they just needed to know, because none of them were employed to be mind readers. And to be perfectly honest with you, going inside my head would be a very dangerous place to visit, I think, half the time. But you need these to give yourself a robust business that you can scale, that you can grow, or if you're not interested in growing, that you can sell at the end with all this in place. So this becomes, imagine your business in a box type scenario. This is what makes your business. Part of that is looking at your capacity, and typically most of us try to overstretch ourselves because we're trying to get to that next stage. So capacity planning is all about the management of your production capabilities to meet that customer demand, whilst avoiding unnecessary costs or delays or overwhelm. Okay, and overwhelm is probably your biggest enemy because you're trying to push that boundary every single day. So I want you to imagine that you started a bakery and that you're really, really passionate about crafting pastries and breads and really delicious treats. And I apologise if this makes you hungry. Without proper capacity planning, you might face some challenges. And those challenges could be balancing demand and supply. So capacity planning ensures that you have just the right amount of production resources, ovens, ingredients, staff, etc., to meet your customers' orders without overwhelming or underwhelming your bakery's capacities, because not being busy enough is really important as well. Avoiding overwhelm. So too much demand without that capacity can lead to chaos, long wait times, exhausted staff, compromised quality. So planning your capacity properly helps prevent these situations. Okay, and this will all fall into place into your risk management. Underutilization, the flip side of overwhelm, is exactly the same problem. Have you got space in your business that you could be doing something else? So, for example, Joe, at the moment it's the school holidays. You're not delivering things, but you're using that time to do something different, to find that sweet spot. Is there an opportunity to diversify when you're looking at your peaks and your troughs, that you have 3 months of the year where you're totally underutilized? So therefore, is there an opportunity to do something different during those times that adds value to your business, adds value to your customers, and ultimately adds revenue and value to your bank account? Capacity planning also is important for handling growth, because as your bakery in this scenario gains popularity, you might want to extend to other places or other products. And this capacity planning allows you to predict and prepare for these growths. So in this scenario with a bakery, if we're a small bakery on the high street in Langport or somewhere like that, when we get to the point we're so busy that there's queues around the block, should we be looking at bigger premises, a second premises, or should we be looking at different products to help do that, or a different service, maybe a delivery service that stops people queuing? Looking at all your capacity can help you identify the right solution. Capacity planning also makes sure that you meet those quality standards, because quality should always be forefront of every conversation that you have with yourself. And it allows you to maintain your high standards if you have your capacity correct. And ultimately, what we're all trying to do is maximize our profits. Okay, so having all of these things under one heading, the ultimate goal is to maximize your profits. And you're only going to do that by having a good look at your capacity and making sure that you're doing the right things. Now, in a bakery situation, you can see it quite obviously if you haven't got the right capacity, the right ingredients, enough ovens. For service businesses, it's really hard, because we end up working 25 hours a day, 18 days a week, because we're trying to get everything done. And spreading things out and understanding that the world won't end if you don't get it done that day is really important to avoid overwhelm and burnout, particularly at this early stage of business that you're in. Because at the moment, some of you will be finding that you haven't got as many customers as you think you should have. So what can you do to get more, when actually your better bet is to go through this business planning process and make sure that you've got all these processes and procedures and your capacity in hand before you look for more customers. Now, hand in hand with capacity becomes inventory. Okay, and there's lots and lots of reasons why you should make sure that your inventory is right. So if we again use our example of a bakery, it makes sure that you've got the perfect balance between too much and too little, so that you're not holding stock, you're not having services and things sitting waiting. So for services business, this is things like, do you have a website that is sat there costing you a big amount of money every month, but you're not ready to use it yet? Have you built a website with all these contingencies and these plans for the future in there too early? Or was it actually better for you to build it that way? So it's about getting that balance in your bottom line and your customer satisfaction with the health of your business and your own health as well. So the key benefits of knowing your inventory are things like the cost efficiencies, okay? Minimizing the cost of storage, handling of things going out of date, really, really important for you, Neil, for you, Katerina, probably as well for you, Steve, with some of your dog products will have shelf lives on them. But also consider things like fashion. So with your dog products, Steve, you're going to have colours that are fashionable one year that aren't the next. So not ordering too many in just to get that price break, when actually purple's not the colour for next year. Purple's always the colour for next year, but making sure that you've got the right trends. So I work with a company who have very similar business to you, Steve, and they also do footwear. And they have a real problem with selling last year's shoes. So they're overstock, anything that hasn't sold during the year. They basically end up selling at a cost, which means that it's taken up space in their bank account, space in their van, space on their show. When actually, if they'd ordered less, They might have paid slightly more for the rest of the shoes, but they haven't got stock sat there. So we're not always talking about shelf life here. Julia and Martin, for you, it's likely to be the micro providers you're signing up, having too many of them sat on your books waiting for work, or too many customers that you can't balance with the number of micro providers, or too few of one or the other. So looking at your inventory of people is just as important. And that all comes down to meeting demand. So it's making sure that you can answer those calls as quickly as possible. So Joe, for you, you might be looking at time as being your inventory. How many hours can you physically be delivering something? How many hours do you need to write up reports? Because writing up reports is not a job for the evenings and the weekends. That's a job during your business hours. And yes, we all do it evenings and weekends, but you shouldn't have to if you've planned your inventory and your capacity correctly. Not being able to deliver something promptly is becoming an increasingly big way of damaging your reputation, because with same day deliveries from Amazon, eBay, Argos, and all the other delivery companies now, people have bigger expectations than they did 5 or 10 years ago. People want a call back. The world is now within, they reckon, within 4 hours, if the average person wants to be called back. Business has gone 24/7 and demand has gone 24/7. So as part of your inventory, have you got the right technology in place to answer your customer demands properly, even if that customer demand is a question, not a sale? All of this, of course, is mitigated by cash flow, and having effective inventory management can free up funds that can be invested in different opportunities for growth rather than being locked into excess stock. But also part of your inventory should be your bank account and checking that you have enough in there for the next however many days, weeks or months should you need it. So looking at that as well becomes part of your inventory. And what we're looking at as well is reducing waste. So are you throwing away things that are out of date? Are you wasting time chasing people who are already overworked? Here we're looking very much again at using this bakery model at waste that's going to affect the environment. And obviously there are grants out there for net zero. There are people who will only deal with companies that have a net zero policy. So it is important to consider that as part of it. So some of the strategies that you can use, which will be in detail in your handout, is something that's called an ABC analysis. And that's where we categorize our items based on their usage and frequency of use. And we focus on managing the high value and high usage items more closely. Okay, so in a bakery, it's likely to be loaves of bread, and the cakes might be, because they're lower value, a B or a C. You can look at a strategy called just in time. Has anyone heard of just in time? Just nod if you have. No?
Yep.
Yeah. Great. So just in time is about maximizing your excess inventory by ordering and producing only what's needed when it's needed. But that relies on you having a really robust and reliable supply chain to be able to do that. And
did anybody watch the Ever Given stuff?
No. Doing.
So the vessel, that's the vessel that got stuck in the Suez.
Oh, yes.
And that was really interesting because there was a refrigeration company in I can't remember where they're based now, but in the UK, and they had 2.5 containers full of refrigerators for restaurants, that they basically, because it took 3 months extra to get delivered, and they were working on a just-in-time inventory, they had no stock. It really impacted their business and cost them in the region of about 30 to 40k, I think they said in the end. So it's all those kind of things, and COVID and stuff has all impacted it.
Yeah, people who were running on just in time during COVID and latterly with the war in Ukraine have been really, really affected. And a lot of the costs that we're seeing through energy at the moment are because our energy providers deal with a just in time and forecasting model. because they don't want to buy too far in advance. Although they buy 12 months in advance, which is why we were buffered for a short period, they're buying now for the summer next year, and they're agreeing the prices. So there's knock-on effects, but it's only delivered in a just-in-time way. So the next item, the next strategy you can use is safety stock. So having a small buffer or a sensible size buffer. It could be a large buffer, using Neil's example of the refrigerators, to manage any unexpected demand or fluctuations in your supply chain. And this could be, for a services industry, having other customers that you know you can call on to fill up those hours. So if you think about cancellations in a doctor's surgery, for example, their safety stock is the people on the waiting list, those people who've said, well, can you put me down if there's a cancellation because I can make it quickly? Because that means they haven't got GPs who are costing them a lot of money every hour sitting around doing nothing. And the best strategy is to just do regular audits, and you'll use a mixture of these. You probably won't use any one of these strategies. You'll probably use a combination of all of them. So conduct regular audits or checks to make sure that your accuracy is still there, because writing it now for your business plan when your business is relatively small isn't going to be the same as in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months or 48 months. And remember that inventory management software is available, and some of it is free. Some of it could just be an Excel spreadsheet, or it could be an Access database, or it could be something on Teams that you use that can help you track items and manage your stock levels. If you are doing product, you've probably got something on stock built into your website, which should then help you generate and forecast. But don't forget, you can't forecast accurately until you've done some time in business. So this is what I was saying to you, Joe, is using those times during the holidays to reflect is your best way of forecasting, because there are models for most industries out there that you can download from the internet or you can find through market research, but they're not going to be as accurate as your own information. So remember to get the balance right and try to get the optimum level that aligns with your business goals and the industry norms. Okay, and just keep a check on it and keep an eye on what's happening in the external market and the changing world around us. Does that make sense? Good. Okay, quality. Imagine you've launched a new product that your customers love. What happens when inconsistencies start happening? What happens when you deliver them something that's defective, or there's a delay, or you've got subpar performance? So someone answers your phone in a really grumpy manner, or the kids pick up your phone instead of you because you happen to be making a coffee at that time and they think they're being helpful. So all of these things can erode the trust that people have, that your customers and your suppliers have, and it can damage your reputation. So having good quality control is your shield against these challenges. It's about being consistent in your product or service and maintaining it every single day. Okay, now I used to work for a publishing company running a gardening magazine, and my daughter was preschool age and she had a desk in the corner of my office at home. And I went to the loo one day, and that was in the next room to my office, and I could hear the work phone going, and there's nothing you can do about it when you're in there. And I heard my daughter, aged 3, answer my phone, and my heart sank. I thought, oh my God, what the hell is going to happen next? What is going to happen? And I was sat there, and you can't rush these things. And I was thinking, there's nothing I could do about this. So I listened to her talking to a garden centre, a very large national chain of garden centres, talking about advertising. And she'd been sat in the corner of my office for about 6 months listening to what had been going on, what I was saying. And I heard her say, that's going to be 15 percentiles more. And I thought, what on earth is she talking about? Anyway, she thanked them very politely. She hung up my phone. She then brought my phone into me, which she should have done before. And I finished what I was doing, went back to my desk, and I phoned this company and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My daughter answered the phone. I was away from my desk for a couple of minutes. My daughter had told them in graphic detail exactly why I was away from my desk, which is where you can rely on a 3-year-old absolutely and totally. And they said, no, it's fine. She was really polite. What do you mean she's only 3? We thought she was a teenager. And she'd sold a customer who used to take a full-page black and white advert from me for a garden centre. She'd managed to upgrade them to colour by telling them it was only 15 percentiles more. She meant percent more for colour advertising because it wasn't the norm back then. And they thought it was brilliant. And it opened up a whole new conversation where I ended up finding out that they also had a 3-year-old and they had a 3-year-old son, and they totally understood it because he kept answering the phones in their office as well. It's quite unusual, but when your quality drops, you need to address that. Now, that one turned out all right, but I'm sure if she'd answered the phone to any one of my other customers, it probably wouldn't have gone so well. Messages, don't leave your phone around when there's toddlers about, one. But if they do and something happens with your quality, attack it head on. A bit like we were talking about the other week about your reviews. Make sure you respond to them. Don't hide from them. But there's things that you can put in place to protect your quality. So when you've written your policies and your procedures, you have your product standard documents as well. If this product or if this service falls below a certain level, it will not go out. It will not make it to the customer. So you need to define what quality means for you. If it's a product, if it's, Katrina, like your honey, is colour an issue? Is that something where the colour is important and that's a way you can judge quality? Is it simply a taste test? You know, here, Steve, do you test your dog products, your leads, your toys? Do you sample randomly and check the standards for those? Or do you ask your supplier for certificates of conformance or durability? Do you have those sort of things in place?
No, not really. We do use the stock with our own dogs, but we don't. We're struggling to get one major supplier because a lot of the wholesalers aren't really that keen to take us on. Not just us personally, but online businesses. I think they've been swamped by small businesses setting up. But we always try and test the products, especially the food, you know, on our dogs, and the harnesses and things like that. We do, you know, use them on our own dogs just to make sure they do work. And of course, you can see the quality. You know what's good quality when you're looking at the stock, really. You know.
Which supplier are you struggling to get to work with you at the moment?
Pedigree Wholesale. We've tried because they're in Bristol. We thought they'd be quite a good one. I know they supply local pet shops, but you know, we've applied to them a couple of times, and they've just turned us down for an account.
So they've probably got a bricks and mortar policy at the moment, which is what's happening with a lot of suppliers, particularly in that industry, isn't it? So my client's down in Kent, and she's having a similar problem. She doesn't do food, but she does do treats, and it's a struggle for her because she's online and shows only to get people to supply her as well, particularly the harnesses. What she's done though is she's worked out a partnership with a local pet shop who over orders, and then she buys in bulk from them at a small markup for them, but enough that she's still got some profit. So it could be that you might find that that's a way of doing it. They may have the pet shops an agreement with Pedigree themselves, which says that they can't supply knowingly to another product, but some are set up in their contracts to be able to distribute as well. So it might be worth actually going and talking to some yourself and seeing whether or not they can help you, because that might be a way. If you do that though, make sure that you factor in their delay for delivery, their delay for payment and so forth as well into your lead times, because it's not going to be as responsive. The other way of doing it is just going into them and saying, look, we can do this and this is what we're doing. Can you help us? Because a lot of them do actually. And she's just managed to do it with a shoe supplier where her biggest shoe brand will only supply to bricks and mortar is that she's actually now buying with a 25% discount from a bricks and mortar shoe shop, so that she can put 25% on. They buy it with 40%, so they're still making 15%. So it's working for both, and it's allowed them to go into another price bracket and get another discount because her stock plus their stock takes them into the next price break. So sometimes you can do that. It depends whether you trust them with your reputation and your quality. So that could be a way around that.
Yeah.
It does work for some people. But with things like food, make sure that you've got lead times and so forth on that, and certificates of conformity.
Yeah.
So defining quality for your own products, making sure that that aligns with the customer's expectations. So don't pretend it's better than it is, because you'll have dissatisfied customers. Make sure that you do your own inspections and testing. Don't rely on somebody else's word for it. Okay, make sure that you are happy with it. And even to the point of sending it out to friends and families and saying, are you happy with how this is looking? So Neil, with your DPD account, it's worth you sending some test deliveries out to friends and family and checking the quality and how it goes to the DPD. Yeah, any of us in the room are happy for that, and we'll all put our addresses into the chat bar in a minute. But send some tests out and do your own research. Don't rely on DPD saying that they can deliver and guarantee that 95% of orders arrive within a certain time or whatever that is they're saying. Test it yourself. Send some samples out. And
it's an interesting one because they always say next day. And sort of, I've been caught out by numerous delivery companies in the past saying it's next day and then it not turning up. So I think, the standard kind of 3 to 5 days delivery on the website, notice that and then and deal with that. And if it ends up turning up earlier, then that's a bonus, isn't it?
Exactly that. Exactly that. So my client down in Kent, we do exactly the same. She knows that if she sends, and she doesn't use DPD anymore, she uses Royal Mail because historically they've been more cost effective and more reliable. We took the average over a 3-month period, and then we added 48 hours on for the expected delivery. But we have a caveat in there that says we do hope that this will be delivered sooner. So please make sure if you're not available, you put in the delivery notes that you're not available on certain days. Because again, although exceeding someone's delivery time is good, if they're not in and their box of lovely spirits goes missing because it's been left on the doorstep by an under enthusiastic DPD or other delivery driver, is stolen or goes missing, then it's there. So make sure that there's contingency in place for that as well, because exceeding is good, but if you told me it's going to be delivered in 3 days, I'll work out whether I'm in the office or whether I'm at home to know where it is. And if you're then exceeding that and it is next day, you might be delivering to a house in a street where hundreds of people are walking by every day and it gets nicked. So just be mindful of that when you're exceeding it as well, Neil, because that happens more often than we care to think about. But just make sure you monitor it and adapt it over the course of the first year or 2 years of setting up your business. You're going to find the way that suits for you best. So, but you'll only do that by monitoring the situation. So by spot checking with your customers and say, I'm just doing a courtesy call and just wondering how you found your delivery in the process of using our company. Can I just ask you 2 or 3 quick questions about your delivery? Was it on time? Was it left in the right place if you gave me a safe place to leave it? Was the packaging intact? Was your product intact? Is there anything else that we could have done that would be better? And by doing that, not only do you monitor the process firsthand rather than taking someone else's word for it, your customers go, wow, don't get that from Amazon, do you? And they come back to you. So that process monitoring is really important. Now we're focusing on delivery, obviously, because it's an easy one to put into context. But the same thing for you, Julia and Martin, do your own checks all the time to make sure that people are happy with how things have arrived to them, whether the carers have got to them on time. Even though they're micro providers and not your employees, they are still advocates and representatives of your business because they're being booked through you. So make sure that you have effective process monitoring and somewhere that you are recording it so that you can look back on it, you know, when you have that quiet week in the summer or at Christmas or wherever it happens to be, and look at all of that, because you won't retain it all in your head. None of us will.
No, it's going to, I think we're going to need to put on there something about, because we're not actually vetting these people. We're relying on the people who take them on, because they're private, going to be private carers. They're going to need to check their DBS and their references and stuff like that themselves. We won't physically be doing that. So we will put on something about customer satisfaction, carer quality, something like that. So they've got something to come back to and tick boxes to make sure that, you know, the carers are who they say they are and doing what they say they're going to do, etc. But we will probably have a follow up with the customers ourselves, just a phone call to say, you know, how did you find the process, or even an email, something along those lines. We haven't got to that point yet, but we need something.
Emails are good because that you will
less time consuming.
Well, it is less time consuming, but you will get less response. You'll get about 30% of people will respond to an email asking them for feedback, whereas if you phone someone, you've got 100% chance of talking to someone on that phone.
Yeah, but the trouble is, the people that are likely to respond are probably the 30% that aren't happy with something, because they're never going to respond to an email if they think, oh yeah, well, everything's fine, I don't need to get in touch with them.
You can address that then, can't you?
Yeah. But any
you can, but you do need to know what's going well as well, because it's not just about quality control. Isn't just about solving the problems. It's about knowing what's going well as well, so that you can use that in your marketing. You can use that in your sales pitches. You can tell people about it. And you've got advocates for your business as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is really, really important to do that. I would suggest knowing the demographic of people that you're going to be working with as well. Email, although most time and cost effective, is not going to give you your best results for process monitoring.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, so really think about that. Certainly try it, but I think I think you'll find that you won't get the response that you think you're going to get. Okay, and I would also say that you, in the same way as I said to Neil, you need to test the deliveries yourself. You probably need to test those carers yourself rather than just relying on other people to look at the DBSs and everything for you.
Yeah, there
spot
will
checks.
be a testing period. There'll be, I don't know, friends and family go on there as potential carers, whatever, and then we'll put some jobs on there and make sure that they get matched properly the way we say we'll do it.
Yeah, because with your hands-off approach, it obviously works really, really well if everything goes well. But when it doesn't, it's your reputation because it's your system. So you need to make sure you have that monitoring in place. Because the benefits of having effective customer control are obviously customer satisfaction. You know, they become advocates, they come back, they buy again, they continue to use you, they become long-term customers. They talk about you, which helps your reputation. Yeah. And if you have a strong reputation for quality, it attracts more customers and it sets you apart from your competitors. It gives you obviously cost efficiencies because other people, if they're talking about you, they're doing your marketing for you.
Yeah, that's basically what we need. If we get someone who's took on a carer, then, you know, they might only need him for a few weeks, few months, whatever. But while they manage to get a carer in that way, they are likely to tell their neighbour or their friends, oh, we got our carer this way, whatever.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to quality. But it also has an impact then on your cost. So if they're saving you money when it's going well, you can also save money by catching and rectifying the defects early and quickly. So again, that sort of thing is going to be really important. And for people like Clive, I know he's not here, who are manufacturing something as well, knowing how things last over a period of time is really, really an important thing as well. And obviously it means that you're meeting your industry standards and the regulations, because there is a requirement in most industries to monitor quality and to meet certain base level standards. And you don't want to just meet the most basic quality standards. You want to exceed them. You want to smash them out the park, and you want to be the best of the best. So the things that you need to do, and these will be in the handout, are clearly define your standards. So outline what defines a quality product or service for your business. Implement the process that allows you to monitor, identify and address any deviations from your standards. Train your team, and that could include your web developer, your marketing person, your accountant. Train everybody that touches or is involved in your business so that your team's skills and understanding of your quality control processes are as high as they can possibly be. And then embrace a culture of continuous improvement. So make sure you regularly review and refine your process. Quality control isn't just about ticking a box. It's not just about getting a kite mark or a certificate on the wall or being put on an approved supplier list. It's about your dedication to quality that resonates with your customers and drives your business forward profitably. Having the highest quality levels might not be right for your business because it might cost you too much to maintain them and mean that you're not profitable, which is why you need to find the right balance. Again, balance is a reoccurring theme through business for your business. Okay. So part of this quality control process is about dealing with your suppliers and your partners. So you are only as good as your supply chain. So you need to manage that. You need to make sure that you look at how your information, your goods, your resources come to you and go all the way through. So this is everybody from the person making your website through to your accountant, through to the people delivering you your ingredients, your bottles, your bottle lids, your jars, the people transporting your honey in, your schools, the receptionist who answers your phone call when you ring up, Joe, all the way through to that end customer. Okay, everybody there is a supplier and a partner, and you might hear them referred to, and you've probably heard them referred to in other ways as stakeholders. Everybody that has an impact on your business or in your business. And making sure that everyone is singing off the same hymn sheet is really, really important. So it's often likened to an orchestra and having all the instruments in the orchestra playing the same music at the same time. Your job is to conduct that orchestra. Stand there up the front with doing this or whatever, however it goes, to make sure everything is happening together. Okay. And the way that we do that is by choosing reliable suppliers who share your commitment to quality and timely delivery, and building partnerships for mutual growth. By looking at your inventory and maintaining the right balance, balancing out costs and stock outs and delivery times and trends and fashions, having the right logistics in place. So planning how your products actually move or your services actually get from you out to your customers or out to your suppliers. By managing your demand and forecasting and anticipating your customer demand through the analysis of data and what's happened. And as startups, really, really difficult because you're guessing or you're using somebody else's rule book. But as you trade, you will get slicker and more knowledgeable about your own business. And that's where these tweaks and constant improvements are really, really important. And looking at technology as well. Leveraging things like your websites, your apps, your Excel spreadsheets, Gantt charts, whatever they happen to be, to make sure that you are using as many things that help you as possible. And that will make you really, really efficient. It will make you really, really popular with your customers. You know, as we've already said, it will help you save money as well. But what it will also do is mean that you are respected by those suppliers and those partnerships because they can see that you are dedicated to your business. and your business has a knock-on benefit for them as suppliers. If you do well, they do well. So if your customers do well, you do well, they do well. So if it's something like a dog harness, Steve, then if it fails, go back to Dog Copenhagen or whoever you're using and say, look, we've had 3 failures on this model. They actually will value that feedback because it gives them a chance to do it, because it's highly unlikely you're the only person. So sharing the bad stuff as well as the good, it makes them respect you more as a supplier. And you might think, well, that doesn't save me any money. But actually, when you get on with people, people by people, as we've said before, and you can then negotiate in a better way with your suppliers, even if they are big companies like Dog Copenhagen and the such like, who you might think, well, aren't really fussed with what you say. They really are. And it helps them as well. Neil, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it doesn't save you money. I'd kind of almost argue that, because it does in the long run, because it saves you time against dealing with complaints and.
Oh, no, sorry, I should have said it does save you money.
Oh, right. Sorry. Perhaps I misheard then.
Possibly not. I've got an ear infection at the moment, and I've got like everything I'm saying in my head is echoey, so it could be me. So I apologise. It will save you money.
Yeah,
it will save you money because it will allow you to optimise your processes, reduce waste in time, in product, in energy. Just going back on that. So yeah, apologies if I said that incorrectly. That probably was me, Neil, to be honest.
Yeah.
So apologies for that.
We've noticed some potential issues with the labelling. So we've gone back to our label provider in Wellington and just kind of gone, look, we've seen this. It doesn't seem to be on every bottle, but it seems to be on some. Could you have a look into it? And they've played around and done different base type materials, etc., to try and see if they can resolve it, and provided us a load of sample products free of charge to use on future bottles, etc. So yeah, it will be beneficial both ends, and like you said, it improves that relationship. We've now got a good communication with them as well. So yeah,
and it's really important to have that good communication. And I would say, Neil, we're going to come on to insurance after the break, but using local people, not just local companies, but local people, is really, really important in getting the best service overall, because it's not just about cost, it's about when things go wrong, what happens. So, lots of people buy their insurance online. We all do. We all go on Compare the Meerkat or Money Supermarket or whatever, and we think that we can find the best deal there. But the proof of the pudding is only when you come to make a claim how it's handled.
Mm-hmm. And we had the same with our label design. It was we'd used a company that was recommended by our distillery, and she's produced some really lovely labels, but she was just a pain to work with. Because it was always either on phone or email. She was the other side of the country, and it just meant that it was just really time consuming to try and get what we wanted out of her, and she just didn't get it. So yeah, go local if you can, or at least that's what's in range of you prepared to drive to if you need to go and physically see them.
Yeah, there's nothing more effective than being able to troop up in the car park and knock on the front door to get a job done if you're having problems. Only really had to do it a couple of times, but we're all local businesses. We want people to use us. So I also think that morally and ethically, if we can use a local supply chain as well, we're doing the right thing. It to me, it just feels right. So I use as many local businesses as possible and try to avoid the Vistaprints and the big companies like that if I possibly can. Sometimes it's the only way I can do it because I've got customers all over the country and local companies can't always deliver to Cumbria and so forth. But, wherever possible, use local people, because, again, that you get that advocacy within your supply chain. You get that whole partnership feeling. Hi, Clive. And what
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
Oh, yeah, stressed out, but there we are. Too much to do, not enough days.
Well, we'll catch up during the break. I'll fill you in on what we've covered so far, okay?
All right, cool. Thank you.
what you also get is you get other people talking about you. And if your business is based locally or in a geographic region, by using other companies in that region, they become your advocates, they become your marketeers for you. So again, when you put that with this partnership, so it should be partnerships rather than suppliers, then it's a two-way street. You shout about them, they shout about you in a positive way. That way, everybody benefits again, don't they? So your steps to doing this is map your supply chain down to the nitty-gritty. Now, I'm sure that Neil, you will have done this, and Katerina, I know that you're doing this and working through this as well, but map your supply chain. That includes who talks about you. You know, every person who touches your product before it gets to the customer. Choose really, really wisely. Select suppliers and partners who align with your values, who believe in the journey you're on, who have the potential to become friends and advocates and proper partners for you. Don't go for the cheapest quote. Do not ever go for the cheapest quote, because you buy cheap, you buy twice, as they say. I know that when you're starting out, cost is often a consideration for you, but choose really wisely for the right reasons, not just for money. Embrace tools and technologies that help you monitor your supply chain. So if you've got multiple delivery mechanisms, Neil, monitor which ones have got the best success rate for you. If, Joe, you're contacting people and sometimes you're speaking to the receptionist and sometimes you're getting through to a head of year, work out who has the best success rate when you speak to them, and then target those people and try and speak to them more often. And regularly review and refine your supply chain, because just because you pick a supplier today that's good for your business today doesn't mean they're the right person in 12 months' time. And sometimes it's really, really hard to let go of a supplier or a partnership. But if it becomes toxic or for your business or onerous or no longer cost effective or just hard work, then it is right to walk away. Like Neil's example of the designer for the labels. If it becomes too much hard work, then don't be afraid to walk away, because this is your business where you get to make the choices. I used to work with a web developer in Dorset, and they were great. They were the right price. They produced very, very beautiful websites. Everything was really straightforward. But when I looked and I sat down, I realised that in a 3-year period, I'd passed them nearly £200,000 worth of websites, and I hadn't had any marketing or content back from them. So I sat down with them, and they were really good friends. We used to go to beer festivals and football matches and things like that together. So it was really awkward conversation. I just went, hey, look, you know, is there a reason you're not recommending me? And they said, oh, we've got a tie-in with another marketing agency that we've had for 10 years. Now, at the time that I'd spoken to them about recommending and selling their websites, they hadn't told me they were tied in to an exclusive deal with another marketing company. So I hadn't chosen wisely because I hadn't done my research and asked them the right questions. So I was selling their websites for them to give the marketing part of that website to my competition. So make sure that you manage it effectively and that you regularly review it, because I kind of left it for too long and it ended up costing me money and generating business for a competitor because of their tie-in. So make sure their terms and conditions align with yours. All of this should then enable you to very, very easily have good scheduling and on-time delivery. And it's not just about assigning tasks, it's about optimizing resources as well. So it's, again, going back to our analogy of an orchestra, it's making sure that everything is coordinated. Okay, you allocate your resources wisely. You avoid bottlenecks and overloading. Neil, you can't avoid bottlenecks. They come as part of the packaging. But you maximize your productivity and you're able to adapt to unexpected changes. Your on-time delivery becomes your part of your brand promise. And Amazon are a company that have done this really, really well with Amazon Prime and their next day delivery. It's very, very rare that Amazon fail to meet their delivery schedules. And if they do, it's not normally down to their distribution, it's down to their delivery people. So, but their delivery is part of their brand promise and what part of the reason people select them. And I don't know about you, but I've ordered quite a lot over the last few years of lockdown from Amazon. And I do shop around to look at those delivery schedules, and I will pay a little bit more to have it next day or within 2 days rather than waiting a week for it if it's something I really need. And when the delivery driver doesn't deliver on time, whoever that might be, then who do I blame? I blame Amazon. So making sure that your brand promise is upheld by your delivery people. And that's not just about a physical delivery, it's about your service delivery. So Julia, will your carers turn up on time? You know, Joe, if you've got somebody going into a school or someone producing a report, does it happen on time? These things are really important as well. And Steve, obviously, if one of your suppliers doesn't deliver product on time, you've got nothing to put on your show, you know, to take and put in the gazebo, then that has an impact on your brand promise because you're the one promising those things. When you can meet deadlines consistently, and the key word is consistently, you build trust and loyalty and you enhance your reputation. But your reputation is also tied in with your supply chain and how your suppliers act on your behalf. So customers have really high expectations. We know that. When you get it right, you gain a competitive advantage. You create positive word of mouth. So again, you end up with that free bit of marketing, other people talking about you in a positive way for you. That doesn't cost you anything and it gains you so much more than just a happy buzz. You also have this ripple effect that happens when you miss when there are delays. You know, a one day delay for someone manufacturing one part of your ingredient could lead to then 2 or 3 days delay. So have you scheduled in buffer time to account for uncertainties in your schedule that take in the average time delays and buffers from your suppliers? Is there a way that you can focus on high priority tasks to avoid yourself getting sidetracked? Oh my God, time management is the hardest thing. You've probably found this already. You know, you're trying to build a company. You're also being asked to fill in business plans and marketing plans and turn up for sessions like this, when really there are things that you would much rather be doing and things that you think are more high priority. As you go through your business, those things, different tasks will change, but you need to focus on those high priority tasks. So there's a number of different strategies that you can use. I use one that's the 4Ds. It's where I have a grid for my to-do list. I don't know if anyone's heard of this, where you have along one side, you have whether it's urgent or not urgent, and then on another axis, whether it's important or not urgent. And if something is both urgent and important, you just do it. If it's urgent but not important, you delegate it. If it's important but not urgent, you can defer it or delay it. And if it's not urgent and it's not important, you just dump it. And that I've found really has helped me when you get to that overwhelm of all these things, to just categorize things into those. Is it urgent? Is it important? And then either deliver it, dump it, delegate it, or defer it. And that really helps me prioritize lots and lots of tasks. There's lots of scheduling tools and softwares and things that you can use as well that can help you automate that. And again, reviewing these consistently is really, really important. But the key thing here is to make sure that you have this constant communication with all your team, all your suppliers, all your stakeholders about any changes in the schedule or any issues that you might be having. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever ordered anything and it's been delayed. If you're not told that it's going to be delayed, you're sat waiting and you get increasingly annoyed. I do. I get annoyed very easily at things like that. But if I get an email from Amazon, for example, saying, I'm sorry, there's a delay and it's going to be 2 days late, I might still be slightly annoyed, but I appreciate that they've bothered to tell me. So making sure that you have that constant communication with your customers And Julia and Martin, this is going to be really important for you because you're relying on other people turning up on time, is to make sure that there's a mechanism in there where they can say, actually, I'm stuck in traffic and I'm going to be half an hour late, and that gets relayed to the customer. Is it going to be a really important way where you can keep those customers on side? And I don't know if you've already got that sort of built into your system in your app, but it might be something that's worth considering or looking at a process for. By communicating throughout your supply chain and with your customers, it allows for collaboration as well. So it could be, Steve, where you can't get harnesses directly from DC or whatever, but you can actually borrow some stock or buy some stock from someone else for a particular show because they don't happen to be going to the same show as you. So they might let you take some of their stock temporarily until your delivery arrives. So being open about your issues can really help, and it facilitates problem solving because other business owners are going through exactly the same day-to-day struggles as you. Some of them will be further down the journey than you and will have learned more from experience than you will have done at the moment being a startup. So take their advice and take their help when it's offered, because they are your best source of collaboration. People think that you can't be friends with your competitors, but you absolutely can. And sometimes they become your best friends because they're the only people that actually really understand what you're going through as well. So having open communication with other people making spirits, other people delivering services to schools, other people running shows or producing stuff is really, really useful to not feel on your own. And this is something that we're going to focus on a lot during the networking session at the end of the month. So I won't spend too much more time with it. Just remember, though, that punctuality is not limited to just being on time. It's about respecting your commitments and building a reputation for reliability. Does that all make sense? Any questions on anything we covered in the first half from anyone? No? Okay, we're going to go on to the next bit then. So, like I say, this is looking at a lot of things really, really quickly. There is a lot more detail in the handouts for you. So I'll get those across to Sally directly after this meeting. So one of the big things that you'll be finding, and one of your biggest worries as you set up your business, is about managing your cost. And this is one of the most crucial skills that you'll have. And I know that you've done accountancy section as well with that. But what we're looking about with cost management is maximizing your profits, but at the same time, maintaining a competitive edge. Now, when you start your business, people tend to go one of two ways. They either tend to hold as much money as they possibly can, as close as they possibly can to themselves, or they tend to spend big because they think that the way to make an impact is to chuck money at it. Both can be equally as right and equally as wrong. It really does come down to your own business and the industry that you're in. But what you should always make sure you're doing is maintaining a competitive edge and doing it in a sustainable way. So throwing all your money, say you have a startup business and you've got £10,000 in the bank. It might be absolutely the right thing to do to spend 8 of that £10,000, for example, on a website, if your whole business is going to be managed through your website. If it's not, though, then you need to look at how you allocate that resource. So where are you going to get the returns on your investment? And what is going to make the biggest difference to your business? For most businesses, as they grow, their biggest costs are their premises and their people. If you are a business that needs specific premises, so you have your own distillery, or you have your own forge, or you have offices that you need, then managing that cost is really, really important. Likewise, if you require people, so you need staff to do shows for you or to go out and sell for you, or reps on the road, managing that is really, really important to put as your priority. So the best way of doing it is I'm sure you've all done sort of personal budgets before when you've maybe applied for a loan or a mortgage or done car finance or something like that, is to take exactly the same approach for your business. Balance everything in there and see where you come to, because you can spend an infinite amount of money. The thing to remember on your cost forecast is to include the cost of you. Because very, very often, most of us go, well, I can do that for free. Oh, I can do that for free. Oh, I don't need paying for that. And when you then price your service or your products, you forget to put your own cost in there, whether it's the cost for your time or your petrol, or whatever. It's normally time we forget, because we're passionate about our businesses and we really want them to succeed. So we don't think twice about getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning and still be at our desks or working at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. If we're only selling that service at a low price, then we're not really going to be making any money at all. And if we're selling too low and we're putting in too many hours, then our money tends to end up in our supply chain. Neil?
Would you do that from day one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I didn't do it from day one. Okay. And it takes a long time to turn it round. Now, when you're doing your accounting, you can basically allocate a wage to yourself, but without taking that money out the bank. If you need that cash in the bank, but you allocate that wage, and it effectively becomes your business owes you a certain amount of money. Now, what my accountant advised me to do was to do exactly this. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have an accountant when I first started my business because I'm married to an accountant, and I thought that that was good enough. And he said, well, it's okay. My wage can cover it for 6 months or so. So don't worry about it to start off with. But what I should have done was accounted for my own wage within the business as a running cost. And then when the business made profit, I could have claimed that back, which would also have reduced my corporation tax bill. Hindsight is a great, great thing. But you should account for it to start off with, Neil, because you're selling a physical product and you are costing that product based on the cost to produce it. You are one of those costs. Okay, so when you come to your pricing, make sure you do that and manage that cost. You can defer payments, you can agree different terms and so forth as well, but you are not profitable if you're not representing all your costs properly. So your costs, by managing your costs as well, you also can give yourself a competitive edge because you can know what the true cost of delivering your product or service at the correct quality is for your industry. And quality has a cost. It also has a benefit, which can be a financial benefit, but quality control has a cost. It's that extra 5 minutes to check that barbecue or to check that batch of bottles before they go out. So you should include that when you manage your time and your capacity as well. So going all the way back to where we started this morning, when you're looking at capacity, make sure you put your quality control checks in there. This will give you a sustainable business that is realistic as well, that helps you continue running despite other fluctuations and economic changes. And we've had so many changes in the last 5 years, haven't we, that, you know, we should all be really quite agile now. But we have to be honest about our costs, saying, oh, actually, well, I'm not going to pay myself for the first year because I've got this redundancy money or I've got this pension or whatever it is. Doesn't actually help your business. It might be enough to help you as an individual, but you're not being true with your business. So managing your costs accurately is really important for a sustainable business, because all of a sudden you build this business up, you've got these customers, you've signed 5-year agreements with them to take your product or your service, and then all of a sudden you go, right, now I'm going to start paying myself, and all of a sudden you realise that those prices are £3.50 below what you need to pay yourself a wage. It's not sustainable. It also helps you allocate your resource. So by looking at the costs in different areas of your business, be it marketing, accounting, production, supply, delivery, whatever it happens to be, your website costs, your app costs, allows you to see which individual areas of your business are costing you the most amount of money and which ones are making you money. There's a big misconception that marketing is always a cost to the business and never brings you revenue. But when you have sales and marketing together, then your marketing is just the prelim part of your sales. So you look at doing that in a particular way. And if you're using packages like Xero or QuickBooks or Sage, giving them using the right terminology within there will help you measure which parts of your business are the most profitable and which aren't. And obviously then you can bring the ones that aren't up to standard and you can prioritize doing more in the areas that are. Now this will come down to processes as much as product ranges. So Neil, you'll probably find that you will have some products that people buy a lot more of and some products that are cheaper to produce than others. And similarly, Steve, you'll probably find the same as well, that you will have certain ranges that sell better at shows, certain ones that sell better online. And accounting for those and looking at the costs and the returns individually is a really important way of making a sustainable business. So it also helps you with your conversations with people like your suppliers, because if you are spending a lot with a particular supplier, you might need to have a conversation and say, actually, as our quantity that we buy from you increases, we'd actually like to negotiate a better price. But you need to know what your costs are accurately to be able to have those conversations, and knowing which conversations to prioritize is really important. Like I say, you can automate quite a bit of this by using a good accountancy software like QuickBooks or Sage or Xero, or there's numerous ones there. They're the ones that I normally recommend because you've got the ability to drill down. Don't forget as well, energy. Now, some of you will be working from home and running your businesses from home, but that has a cost to your energy. Because in the summer, you might, if we had a good summer, you probably won't be putting the heating and the lights on. But in the winter, you're absolutely going to be doing that. And you can claim back some of the costs of running your business from home. And they should be included in the costs to your business. Julia?
Yeah, just going back to the wages part of it. I work full time. Martin works more or less full time, even though he's retired. But so what we'd planned in our cash flow and all that was that we would continue working for at least 12 months and have the business running in the background. If we put in wages for ourselves, so we put in £500 a month each, whatever, £1,000, that's going to push our break-even point forward, like further forward. So is it worth doing that? And the other question was, should we be putting in an allowance for time, like money now? Someone's mentioned that we should, but we're not really sure if we should be or how we go about doing that.
So the answer, in my opinion, to both is yes, you should. Okay, the reason being, when you give up your jobs in 12 months, 18 months time, all of a sudden you're going to see the cost of doing business in your business suddenly skyrocket to include your wages. And that could affect your pricing strategy. If you then have to have a conversation perhaps about increasing your prices, which is hard to do. And we don't know kind of how the world's going to be looking in 12 months' time, although we can probably guess it's not going to be a really comfortable financial world we're living in even then. By factoring in the costs of your time, your wages, effectively now, you can get your pricing strategy right from day one. So yes, it might push your break-even point further down the road, but actually it gives you a sustainable business. Otherwise, you're having a business that is reacting to a changing environment just as it's getting settled, which is what I did. I went, I don't need to earn too much money. I just need enough to cover part of the bills or whatever. And I underpriced my services because I looked at it in the wrong way. So, but if I'd put, and it's been really hard getting clients who've been loyal clients for 8 years, in a cost of living crisis following COVID and so forth, to raise their prices. So I would say do it from day one if you can, because I really do genuinely wish I had.
Okay.
You got your hand up again, or is that just the computer?
No, that's just the same
Click
one.
it again.
Okay.
Click hand.
Okay. So automating using software, accountancy software, is a really simple way of doing it. And you're probably going to need those softwares anyway. So just use that part of it and make sure you get those categories set up. Either do it yourself in a way that makes logical sense to your business and how you want to monitor it, or ask your accountant how to do it as well. There are rules on HMRC website about certain things that you can categorise, but I'm sure you've gone through that in the accountancy session that you had. The other thing that's really a good benefit from looking at your costs is how you minimise your waste. So that could be wasted time, wasted resources, wasted people, or just waste. So by monitoring it, you get a true picture for your business. It helps you streamline things, okay? And I know that numbers are not a lot of people's best friends, but they are important because ultimately you want your businesses to be profitable. And if you don't know what your costs are, you can't measure your profit. So it's not just about cutting back on your expenses. It's about giving you all the tools you need to make really thoughtful decisions that impact your business's growth and sustainability in a positive way. Okay, any questions on costs? No, good. Like I say, you should have covered most of this anyway in the accountancy section. So health and safety, that great thing that costs businesses money, that saves businesses money. The most important thing is this isn't an optional extra. The law says every business must have a policy for managing health and safety. Every single business, whether you're a one-person business or not, you must have a health and safety policy. Okay, it says that a health and safety policy states about your general approach, what you do as an employer, and as a business owner, you are an employer and an employee. So you're an employee of your own business, how you manage it. It says who does what, and sometimes that's just me on everything, but how you do it and what. So this becomes part of your risk analysis. If you have 5 or more employees, and I don't know if there's anyone in the room that does, you must have it documented and written down. And if you have fewer than 5, you don't need to write it down, but it is useful to have it, because then you've got it for when your business grows, or you've got it if ever challenged. You must share your policy with anyone within your company or anyone that comes into your company, and you should share it with your insurance broker and any changes to it. Okay, you must by law do it with your employees. I share all my policies with my insurance broker because it makes sure that he gives me the best advice and therefore the best price. Okay, and my insurance broker is really good because he also does free risk assessments for my business every single year. So he'll come in and do that for me, which is included in my price, which means I've got another expert doing stuff for me. Okay. So the reason we do have health and safety is about protecting lives, firstly and foremostly. Okay, so having the right protocols and processes, particularly if there's machinery involved, driving. So do you have a company driver's policy? Do you have computer screen assessments for people's eyesight, what they're allowed to do with their phones? So you must have, if you're expecting employees to drive for you, make sure you have a mobile phone usage policy that says they must not use it in the car. It's about your legal obligations. It's about training and educating your team and equipping them with the knowledge they need to know to navigate any potential risks. So this could be suppliers that come into your business to drop things off. You're going to need this, I think, Julia and Martin, depending on how you manage your micro providers. If you don't manage this part for them, you're going to need to see that they have this, because again, it's your reputation. Doing a risk assessment, there's hundreds for every industry that you can download. Best place to go is the HSE website, which is on the bottom of these slides. Will give you templates for your industry on which ones to use and examples of other people in your industry. And what we're trying to do with this, apart from just saving lives and keeping everybody compliant, is develop a culture of cultivate a culture where everybody's safety is everybody's responsibility. So everyone's got everyone else's back. Again, with your reputation and your supply chain, this is really important. I share my health and safety policy with key suppliers and anyone that comes in here. It's on the wall, people can see it, because it shows that I am a responsible business owner. So that helps my reputation, because people want to deal with responsible people. Okay. I make sure it doesn't get dusty, it does get cleaned. It helps people, your customers, feel safe when they're dealing with you, and it mitigates against risks. So a health and safety policy isn't just about compliance, but your policy must cover 3 areas: your statement of intent, so your general policy, your responsibility, so the lists and of the names and the positions and the roles of the people who have responsibility for health and safety, and then your practical arrangements, so what you would do if such and such happened. It doesn't need to be war and peace, but it does need to be realistic. If you never have customers coming to your house or to your office, to your place of work, then you don't need to include it in here by law, but it's good practice to say, should someone come to my place of work? If you have nobody who drives for you employed, you don't have to have that by law, but it's always good practice to have that. So there's a link at the bottom of these slides, and I do suggest you go and read it on there for your specific industries, because it is a really good source of information, and it is really, really important. It's a legal requirement. Okay, and what you're doing by doing this at an early stage is setting up your business for the future. Clive?
Yeah, a couple of quick points, if I may.
Of course.
What you were just saying about HSE and relevance and all the rest of it, there are certain areas where you might be very surprised to know that there are implications that you'd never consider. For instance, one of my boys was recently working in a hotel, okay, in the restaurant part and all the rest of it. He has to be wearing steel toes in a restaurant. Would you believe that? And so yeah, don't be surprised to find, peculiars. They're out to trip you up. And another point I just wanted to briefly make, you're going back to mobile phones. There's more than just a safety implication to that, of people, especially the younger ones being constantly on their phones. It's also a productivity thing. And a trick I did some years ago myself when I was a works manager at a place, I had my second in command and a chosen stooge, right? And we dealt with the problem of mobile phones, okay? And this is how we did it. We had this stooge, we had a big mock-up row in the middle of the workshop. Everyone could see us, big blazing row, looked really genuine. And I took this fella's phone off him, put it on an anvil, and beat 7 bales of what's it out of it with a big hammer. And that left an impression. And we didn't have problems with phones after that.
No, I had a girl who came to me on a work experience program, and I said, I don't say your phone must be in your drawer. I appreciate it's been doing it, but I monitored her over the course of the week, and she spent 9 hours checking her phone. That was about a quarter of her time in the office. So productivity is really important as well. That doesn't really fall under health and safety, but it is a good process to have. If we go all the way back to the beginning, is to have a policy for mobile phone usage. The health and safety aspect of that is when driving, when operating machinery, when caring for somebody or doing whatever it is. What is your policy on mobile phones? Some people say put them in a desk drawer, leave them in the car, whatever. That's perfectly right. If you're the employer, you have the right to say that, and it's then up to you to decide whether you make a concession because that person is a single parent of a disabled child and needs to have regular access or something like that. But have a rule, make exceptions if you have to, but be really careful, because if you make an exception for one person, you can open yourself up for problems from other employees. So part of that health and safety bit is about managing risks and looking at the different risks for your business. Now, when we think of risks, we think about trips and falls, and we think about burning ourselves or dropping anvils or tools or whatever it happens to be. But there's other risks in business, and these are some of the main ones. Financial risks. So the fluctuations in revenue, and this is why, you know, it's really important to look at your costs, look at your supply chain, and look at any unexpected expenses. Now, in the early days of your businesses, you might not be able to do this as regularly or as accurately, rather, as you would moving forward. But the financial risks to your business can be really quite severe. You've also got the operational risks, so process inefficiency, supply chain disruptions, technology. You know, what happens if you get hacked? What happens if the internet goes down in the village you're in? What happens if? And that's what all of these are what happens if. So market risks, so, you know, fashion changes, a new competitor coming in on your patch, economic downturns, or even economic upturns, because there were a lot of winners from COVID in the business sense. People who could innovate and move quickly became winners. People making the vents and the masks and things like that, they were undoubtedly COVID winners. So economic downturns and economic upturns can both be risks. We tend to focus more on the downturns as a risk, but one of the risks of an upturn is not being able to meet your demand, not having the capacity or the capability to move quickly enough to keep up with your competitors and your customers. And then, of course, you've got the risks of not meeting your legal and compliance requirements. So what if someone tries to take you to court? What if you don't meet up with regulatory changes? What if there's a contract dispute? You know, are just some examples. It's by thinking about what the risks could be, you give yourself a head start in working out how you would face them if they landed on your business. So the 5 steps that we use are risk identification. Identify the potential risks specific to your industry, market, and your business model, and think about those 4 different areas that I've just mentioned. Evaluate the likelihood and the impact of each risk. So you'll see when you have a look at some of the risk assessment templates that you grade from 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, or using traffic lights. How likely are they to happen? Very likely, highly unlikely, etc. Against what's the risk to your business should they happen? And it gives you a score at the end. And then you know which ones to develop strategies for, which ones to prioritize. And with those strategies, you might be able to mitigate against them. You might be able to totally get rid of that risk, but you might not. And quite often you won't be able to remove that risk from your business, because our businesses rely on people, and people are not reliable. Okay, not in a risk scenario. So you might need to have safeguards in there. And they might be physical guards on machinery. They might be safeguards as in backup plans, contingency plans. It might be you just can't get rid of that risk, so you need to make sure your insurance totally covers the likelihood of that happening. And again, it's the whole part of operations management is about this review and update. Keep evolving your systems. So when my daughter was young, I decided that I needed to earn some money, so I registered and trained to be a childminder, because I thought this is something I can do at home. I was working in nursing homes in the evenings and overnight, and I registered as a childminder. And I went round my house and I went, yes, no risk. I've brought up, I've got 2 children here, neither of them's died. That's fine. I should be fine. And then my son, who was 5 at the time, 5 and a half, said, But mum, what if a really naughty child comes and they climb up on the window ledge, because I've got quite deep window ledges? Okay, so I need locks on my windows. Okay, noted. What if they decide to climb up the chimney, mum? Are they likely to climb up the chimney, Thomas? I've tried it, mum. Have you? Okay. Guards, fire guards across the chimneys, make sure no one goes up there. Draw things so they don't pull out drawers of cutlery on their head, that sort of thing. Sometimes the person best equipped to say where the risks are in your business isn't you, it's an outsider. Children are stupendously honest when it comes to things like that and owning up for things. My son was brilliant, but ask somebody else what other risks there are. And again, look on things like the HSE website, the Institute of Risk Management website for examples. There are lots of examples that are out in the public domain that will cover businesses in your sector and give you some starting points. Okay, but keep reassessing it and keep making sure that you check it and reevaluate it, because your risks will change. And as your business grows, some of the risks that were there at the beginning, which might be the financial risks, may disappear. So make sure that you change that risk matrix to reduce their score, because that can affect your insurance. So segueing neatly onto insurance, when you have done your risk analysis, share it with your insurance broker, share it with that human person. Please do not share it with the meerkats and do online insurance, because it's not going to be the place that you find the insurance for your business. They deal in one size fits all models. My insurance company will help me do my risk assessments for my business. And because I do them, and because I have them documented, and because I have a health and safety policy that's documented and my other policies, my insurance is 30% cheaper than doing it online, because I can demonstrate that I have the right process and procedures within my business, that I am a less of a risk to the insurance company. So explore a whole range of insurance options. Now, some of the most common types of insurance, you'll probably already know. You all need public liability. You'll all need employer's liability, because even if you have contractors coming on, and you'll all need professional indemnity. Those are non-negotiable. Every business will need to have those. Okay, so they're easy. You can search for them online, but you won't know what cover you need yet. Other things that you might need is property insurance. Now, some of you will be working from your homes and you'll go, well, I've already got properties insurance. But most domestic home insurances will not cover your home if you are also using it for a business. So you need to have property insurance through your business to cover that, because a lot of companies, I could name some, HSBC, Aviva, AXA, if you are running a business from home, will not pay out on any home claim you put in. So double check that, because you're not just insuring your property now. If you're working from home, you are also insuring your business, which means you need to also have business interruption insurance, which means that if something catastrophic happens to your place of business, you're covered for your loss of earnings and for your expenses, because you might be tied into a contract where even if you can't trade for 6 months, you still have to pay your web developer or your supplier or your bank loan or so forth. This business interruptions insurance can help with that. Make sure you have cyber insurance. There's been so many cyber attacks breaches. There's the one in the news that happened yesterday with the police force. It is not something that happens to everybody else. It really does happen to a lot of businesses, and you've probably all had scam emails come through. So cyber insurance, in my opinion, is a no-brainer. And then you need product liability if you are supplying product. So Neil and Katerina, for definite you need this, because what happens if one of your glass jars arrives broken through no fault of your own and someone puts their hand into the box and cuts themselves? You are liable for that. And Steve, what happens if one of your leads or harnesses breaks and that dog gets injured? You would be liable for that. So you need product liability as well. All of this says to me and is something I truly, truly believe in. Deal with an individual. Don't deal with a meerkat. Don't deal with a supermarket. Deal with an insurance broker you can sit down with over a cup of coffee and explain your business to them. Show them your business plan. Show them all your policies, and you will get the best cover. It will not be necessarily the cheapest, but if you have the correct policies, it quite often is. I have an individual who works for my business now in my insurance broker, who is a friend of mine now, and he makes sure that I get the best price every year. So it is really worth dealing with that person. I've put his name into the chat, and I really do say, you know, he is the best person I've ever come across for doing this. The benefits of having the right insurance are that you can mitigate against those risks, okay, which gives your business more sustainability. You are legally compliant. There is a legal requirement for you to have certain types of insurance, such as your employer's liability insurance. It gives you peace of mind because you know you're covered if something happens. It gives your customers confidence. A lot of your customers will ask to see your insurance documents, and it allows you to protect yourself for future growth. But don't pick up something that's off the peg, because none of your businesses are the same as anyone else's. So don't expect your insurance to need to be. Does that make sense? Good. So we are coming towards the end now. So one of the requirements as well that is becoming a greater requirement for businesses is to look at diversity and equality. So be interested to know, what does diversity and equality mean to you? Has anyone considered this within their business? Okay.
Equality is treating everybody, you know, with the same baseline, but dependent on their requirements as well. So if you have someone with a disability, you obviously need to be able to deal with that accordingly. To my mind, diversity is literally the breadth and depth of your workforce and who you deal with, different religions, ethnicities, socio-economic background, genders, etc., etc.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, that's right. So it's not a buzzword, is the first thing. It can really help your business. So diversity means valuing and respecting the differences that each individual brings to the table. So that could be, like Neil said, race, religion, ethnicity, sexuality, or so forth. It could be background, experiences, perspectives and skills, fresh ideas, insights. So when you hire people into your business or you deal with different people, different suppliers, having a range of different backgrounds and different ideas is really useful as well. Equality goes hand in hand with diversity, obviously, and it's about creating that inclusive environment of work where every person is treated fairly, regardless of any of their differences. It's making sure that everyone feels valued and empowered and can contribute their best work to driving it forward. So a lot of people go, well, why does that matter? Well, studies have shown that diverse teams outperform homogenous ones. And your team is more than just the people inside your business, it's also the people outside. So being better equipped to solve complex problems because you've got a range of backgrounds, a range of experiences, being more adaptable to change. So each of us have a tolerance to be able to cope with different stresses. We each have triggers of things that affect us in different ways. So having a mixture of people helps prevent some of those risks. Having diversity within your team also helps you understand a more diverse world that we live in. And therefore, you can speak to, in your marketing and your sales bit, a more diverse customer base. So if you can be truly inclusive within your business, you can attract and retain talent, you can improve your employee morale, and you can enhance your business reputation. It gives you more options for decision making. It gives you a broader appeal. people are asking to see your diversity and equality policies, because if you're dealing with big companies, then they want to see this happen because they have a requirement. So how can you integrate diversity and equality into your business from day one, do you think? No? Anyone got any ideas?
Just be open-minded.
Yeah, basically that. So create an inclusive culture that you lead from the top. You know, set clear expectations that it's not all right, you know, for men to wolf whistle women or women to wolf whistle men, goes both ways. Model the behaviour you want to see in the team and the people you work with. Embrace bias awareness. Sometimes I think we're too scared to say something just in case it's taken the wrong way, where actually being open about it kind of gets rid of it. Seek out people to work in your company, for your company and with your company from a variety of different backgrounds so that you have a well-rounded team. And offer mentorship and advancement for everyone, and make sure everyone has the same opportunities. Now, there will be people that will shine above others. There will be people that have natural talent. That doesn't mean that you're not showing equality. You still have a requirement as your business owner to use every individual within your business to the best of their potential. And that's what this is about. It isn't about treating everybody the same because the law says everybody should be the same. So therefore you've got to promote people or deal with people because of this. It's about saying that you're being open and you're giving the same opportunity to everybody. So you've got an advantage because you're starting a business from scratch. You can do this from day one. There are hundreds and thousands of businesses out there who are trying to backtrack through hundreds of years of trading from very different eras to embed this within there and be visible, you know, and we've seen it in the news, the police force and so forth, the services have really struggled with this because they had very set rules. So you've got a really good chance here to start from day one moving forward. And we've talked about how this will benefit your business. So yeah, I think that's kind of it. So that's it for today.